With winter approaching fast and snowstorms on the horizon, it's time to start thinking about how to keep your plants and crops safe from the freezing cold. Imagine waking up to find that your greenhouse has turned into a frost-covered wasteland. The power has been out for hours, and without any heat, all the hard work you put into your crops has been erased in a single night. So, how can you prevent winter's worst from destroying your plants? The answer lies in an age-old technique inspired by the Amish. While many of us are busy searching online for the latest greenhouse insulation tips, the Amish rely on time-tested methods that don't involve electricity, gas, or high-tech solutions. Instead, they turn to the sun, compost, and a few natural materials you might not expect. And what's remarkable isn't just that they do it, but how they do it. Get ready, because we're about to dive into how Amish farmers work in harmony with nature to keep their crops thriving, even when the world outside looks more like a freezer than a field. According to Amish traditions, if you want to heat a greenhouse without electricity, your best bet is to use the ultimate natural heat source, the sun. No monthly bills, no wires, and it's been providing warmth for billions of years, so it has a pretty reliable track record. The Amish have mastered the art of maximizing this source of energy to its fullest potential. First up is greenhouse placement. The Amish don't just put their greenhouses anywhere, they carefully choose a location with maximum sunlight exposure. They position their greenhouses facing south, allowing sunlight to stream in for as many hours as possible throughout the day. This technique, known as passive solar heating, allows the sun to warm the greenhouse without any extra machinery. Now you might be wondering, but what about those dark winter days when sunlight is scarce? This is where the design of the greenhouse comes into play. The Amish don't just rely on sunlight alone. They construct greenhouses with materials that retain heat, much like how a good winter coat keeps you warm, even after you've stepped indoors. Many Amish greenhouses use glass or clear plastic, which lets in sunlight during the day. The sun's rays warm everything inside: soil, plants, pots, allowing all those elements to hold on to the heat, creating a buffer against the evening chill. Through careful planning, natural materials, and knowledge passed down through generations, the Amish keep their crops flourishing even in the dead of winter. This approach shows how powerful simplicity and respect for natural processes can be in creating a sustainable, resilient greenhouse. When you park your car in the sun and return later, it often feels like stepping into a sauna. This is precisely the concept Amish farmers use, without the uncomfortable seatbelt. By designing greenhouses with passive solar heating, they can cut heating costs by up to 50%, even in colder climates. That's right. Just by choosing the right spot and materials, heating costs can be halved. If only saving on car insurance were as straightforward. To make the most of available sunlight, try some of the design tricks the Amish use. They add features like slanted roofs to catch more rays and double-layered walls to retain heat, turning their greenhouses into efficient, sun-powered spaces. This setup ensures their plants soak up more sunlight in winter than the average office worker might see. And it's not just about the sunny days. Amish greenhouses are engineered to capture every bit of light, even on cloudy days, making the most of what little sunlight comes through. They've mastered a system where every photon counts, squeezing every last bit of warmth out of limited daylight. So when you see the sun peek out, think like the Amish and ask yourself, how can I make this work for me? The answer: build smarter, not harder. And don't forget to wear sunscreen. The next key to efficiently heating your greenhouse without electricity, Amish style, is understanding thermal mass. Don't worry, this isn't a high school physics test. Thermal mass is one of the smartest tricks the Amish use to keep their greenhouses warm with zero electricity. So, what is thermal mass? In simple terms, it's when you use materials like water, stone, or bricks to absorb heat during the day, and then gradually release it at night when temperatures drop. Imagine it as nature's most patient heating system. It's like preheating an oven. Long after you turn it off, the warmth lingers, keeping the space cozy. Just think of this method as a sustainable, quiet heating system that needs no maintenance, no fuel, and best of all, no electricity. Your greenhouse stays warm naturally, no cookies required. The Amish have mastered this technique. And you can too by filling your greenhouse with materials that store up heat, much like squirrels stash nuts for the winter. Stone floors, brick walls, and large barrels of water act as little thermal batteries. During the day, these materials soak up sunlight, and as the temperature drops at night, they slowly release the stored heat, keeping your plants cozy, even when it's freezing outside. It's like wrapping your greenhouse in a heated blanket, but without needing to plug it in. One of the Amish's best-kept secrets for thermal mass is water. With a high heat capacity, water can absorb lots of heat without overheating quickly. To harness this, Amish farmers often line their greenhouse walls with barrels of water. These barrels act as heat reservoirs, absorbing warmth during the day and slowly releasing it at night. A single 55-gallon water barrel can hold enough heat to warm a small greenhouse through a chilly night. That's impressive efficiency from something as simple as water. But water isn't the only effective thermal mass. Heavy materials like stone or brick also capture heat from the sun during the day and gradually release it overnight. If you step into an Amish greenhouse, you'll likely see stone paths or thick, dark bricks lining the walls. These aren't just for aesthetics. They're working behind the scenes to stabilize temperatures, acting like the steadfast grandparents of greenhouse heating. Did you know that each square foot of thermal mass in a greenhouse can reduce heating needs by up to 15%? That's significant, especially when heating bills can run high. And remember, not just any material will do. The key to effective thermal mass is choosing materials that absorb a lot of heat by day and release it slowly by night. Dark-colored materials work best because they absorb more sunlight, similar to how a black shirt feels much hotter than a white one in the sun. So, take a cue from the Amish and go for dark stones, bricks, or even large, dark clay pots. Not only will these items look great in your greenhouse, but they'll help regulate the temperature naturally. Thermal mass is like that one friend who always hoards the blankets but then ends up warming the whole room. They may take all the heat during the day, but they're generous enough to share it later when you need it most. Just like these stones and water barrels, thermal mass keeps your greenhouse snug and thriving through the coldest nights. So next time you think about heating your greenhouse, let stones and water do the work. It's efficient, eco-friendly, and best of all, it actually works. Another natural heating method favored by the Amish is composting. Now, if you're picturing piles of smelly, decomposing vegetables, don't worry. Done right, composting is a surprisingly effective and sustainable heat source. And the best part? It's recycling at its finest. Imagine turning last week's potato peels into next week's greenhouse heater. Composting produces heat through decomposition. As organic materials like food scraps, leaves, and manure break down, they generate heat, a bit like a mini bonfire inside your compost pile, but without the flames. In fact, a well-maintained compost pile can reach temperatures up to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, which is hotter than a cup of tea. The Amish have discovered that by placing compost piles strategically around or even inside a greenhouse, the warmth from decomposition can help maintain a stable temperature, especially on chilly nights. There's a trick to composting for heat, though. You can't just throw anything into a pile and expect it to warm up your greenhouse. Composting requires balance, and the Amish have it down to a science. By combining greens like kitchen scraps and grass clippings with browns like dried leaves and straw, they create the ideal environment for microbes to thrive. As these microbes break down the materials, they generate heat, which can keep your greenhouse warm through day and night. It's like having a team of tiny workers generating heat around the clock. One Amish composting technique is to place compost piles along the greenhouse perimeter, creating a natural barrier of warmth. As the compost breaks down, the heat radiates through the greenhouse walls, keeping the interior from getting too cold. You can even take it a step further by placing compost bins directly inside your greenhouse, so your plants benefit from the warmth right up close, almost like having a heater built into the room. And don't worry about unpleasant odors. If your compost pile is properly maintained, it should smell earthy, not like rotting food. If there's a strong smell, it likely needs more balance or air. Turning the pile regularly helps aerate it and speeds up decomposition, which is why Amish farmers make this a regular part of their greenhouse routine. A well-managed compost pile not only heats the greenhouse but keeps things smelling fresh and earthy. Compost piles aren't limited to greenhouse heating either. Some people even use compost to warm water for showers or to heat outdoor areas. And if you're looking to impress, you can tell your neighbors that your plants are thriving with heat from vegetable scraps, an eco-friendly solution straight from the garden. Whether you're a dedicated gardener or just want to put food scraps to good use, composting is a fantastic way to warm up your greenhouse. Not only does it keep your plants cozy, but it also gives you nutrient-rich soil once it's fully decomposed. It's a win-win. Warm plants and natural fertilizer, all thanks to nature. Plus, it's a unique conversation starter. Try saying, "Did I mention my greenhouse is heated by compost?" Let's face it, no one likes a cold draft, not even your plants. The Amish know this well, which is why windbreaks and insulation are key in their greenhouse heating strategy, an idea worth borrowing. If you've ever been in an old house on a windy night, you know how drafts can chill you right through. It's the same for greenhouses. Keeping cold air out is just as crucial as retaining heat. Windbreaks are the Amish's first line of defense. Instead of fancy electric heaters, they use nature itself. By planting trees, shrubs, and hedges around their greenhouses, they create a natural barrier against icy gusts. This greenery acts like a wind-blocking fence that also enhances the landscape. Wondering if trees can really make a difference? The answer is a resounding yes. Studies show that a good windbreak can cut wind speed by up to 50%, which helps reduce heat loss in a greenhouse, a big advantage when relying on passive heating. Plus, windbreaks create a microclimate around the greenhouse, keeping it a bit warmer than open areas. It's like wrapping your plants in a blanket against the winter wind. Windbreaks are just the start. The next step is insulation, and the Amish have this down to a science. In winter, they stack straw bales around the base of their greenhouses to create a natural insulating layer. Straw may not sound high-tech, but it's remarkably effective at blocking out cold and trapping warmth. The tiny air pockets in straw make it a fantastic insulator, and when these bales are packed around the greenhouse, they create a fortress against the cold. It's affordable, easy, and even compostable come spring. A true multi-purpose solution. Generally, a row of tightly packed straw bales around the greenhouse's perimeter is enough for decent insulation. Just make sure there are no gaps, as those would be like leaving a door open on a chilly day. For additional insulation, consider using wool or old blankets in areas that lose heat quickly, just like some Amish farmers do. Another classic trick is lining the inside of the greenhouse with plastic sheeting. Although plastic might not seem Amish, it's actually common in their greenhouses. Clear plastic is stretched over frames or even layered to create an air pocket, which holds in warmth, like a makeshift thermos for your greenhouse. This simple addition helps keep heat inside, maximizing the effectiveness of every natural heating method you use. If you've ever used bubble wrap on windows in winter, this idea will seem familiar. Here's where it gets even more clever. Dark surfaces. The Amish often use dark-colored walls or surfaces inside their greenhouses to capture more sunlight during the day. When the sun goes down, these dark surfaces release the stored warmth back into the greenhouse. So, while you might be bundled up in layers to stay warm, your greenhouse is thriving, thanks to strategic windbreaks, insulation, and heat-absorbing materials. Imagine a windbreak made of trees that also serves as a natural fence, or straw bales insulating your greenhouse like a cozy fortress. It's like nature's own upgrade kit, complete with free heating. Next time you're dealing with a chilly draft in your home, consider planting a tree or insulating with straw, and let nature take care of the warmth. It's a strategy that's worked for generations, and it doesn't use a single watt of electricity. To keep a greenhouse productive through winter, the Amish don't rely only on heat sources or compost. Sometimes, the simplest approach is choosing crops that can thrive in the cold. Think of it like building a strong team. You wouldn't want your most delicate player facing the toughest competition. The same goes for plants. You need the winter-hardy ones, the cold weather warriors. The Amish know not all plants can handle low temperatures, so they select resilient varieties that grow even when it's frosty. Spinach, kale, carrots, and beets are popular choices in Amish greenhouses. These aren't fragile summer tomatoes. They're the hardy plants that can handle a frost and keep growing strong. Here's something interesting. Plants like kale actually taste sweeter after a light frost. It's nature's way of helping them survive. The plant converts some starches to sugars, making it even more delicious. So, while frost may stop some activities, it actually enhances the flavor of certain crops. It's not just about choosing cold, hardy plants, though. Another Amish technique is planting in succession, meaning crops are planted at different times to ensure continuous harvests, even in winter. Think of it like keeping your woodpile stocked. You wouldn't want to run out in the middle of January. With succession planting, there's always something ready to pick, keeping the greenhouse productive and the pantry full. Cold frames and hotbeds are another low-tech, smart technique that the Amish use to keep plants warm in winter. According to their approach, placing a cold frame on top of a hotbed maximizes heat retention, helping plants stay comfortable even when temperatures drop. Cold frames act as mini greenhouses, trapping heat and protecting plants from harsh weather, while hotbeds are filled with compost or manure that naturally generates warmth as it breaks down. Together, they create a cozy environment for plants, reducing the need for expensive heating systems. Using these methods, dark surfaces, windbreaks, straw insulation, cold-hardy crops, and traditional cold frames and hotbeds helps keep a greenhouse warm, efficient, and eco-friendly, just like the Amish have done for generations. When it comes to protecting plants from chilly air, the Amish have a clever setup using hotbeds and cold frames. The hotbed warms the soil from below, while the cold frame captures warmth from above, creating a cozy microclimate. Cold frames work like mini greenhouses that trap sunlight and hold warmth around the plants. They're easy to make with a simple frame, either wood or metal, and a clear cover like glass or plastic. The cover lets sunlight in during the day, holding heat to keep the plants warm through chilly nights, creating a stable environment. To build a cold frame at home, you just need a few materials: some wood for the frame and an old window or clear plastic sheet for the top. Position the frame where it gets maximum sunlight, ideally on the south side of your garden or greenhouse. For extra insulation, you can add straw bales around the sides. This setup is perfect for starting seeds early in the season, or for growing hardy crops like spinach, lettuce, and herbs through winter. This small structure essentially creates a protected, warm environment for your plants with minimal resources. Hotbeds are another effective heating technique, relying on natural decomposition for warmth. This approach has been around for ages and is still used by those seeking a natural way to heat their greenhouse soil. To make a hotbed, layer manure or compost under the soil. As the material decomposes, it releases heat that warms the soil above, keeping plants cozy. You can build a hotbed by digging a trench about a foot or two deep, filling it with fresh manure. Horse manure works especially well for generating heat, and covering it with a layer of soil. As the manure breaks down, it creates steady warmth for your plants, even in colder weather. This technique is particularly helpful for early spring planting or extending the growing season into fall and winter. One big advantage of hotbeds is that as the manure decomposes, it enriches the soil with nutrients, acting as a slow-release fertilizer. So not only does it heat your greenhouse naturally, but it also improves soil quality. Cold frames and hotbeds both harness natural sources, sunlight and decomposing organic matter, to create a warm, thriving environment for your plants. Sustainability is at the heart of Amish farming practices. Did you know that over 90% of Amish farms are still family-owned and operated? They pass down farming knowledge through generations, not because it's trendy, but because it works. The Amish don't read about sustainability, they live it. They figured out how to keep greenhouses warm without electricity long ago, and it still works today. The Amish lifestyle is rooted in simplicity. Not the all-beige, minimalist decor kind of simplicity, but the kind where you use what you have, take care of it, and avoid waste. They don't rely on electricity. They use the sun, wind, and even manure to keep things running efficiently. Their greenhouses are often made with durable materials like wood and glass that require little maintenance, creating a system that's both efficient and low-tech. Their philosophy is a bit like that DIY fix you make around the house with a bit of duct tape. Only in their case, their low-tech solutions have been perfected over centuries. They're not cutting corners. They're just using a practical approach. While many people are trying to cut their carbon footprints, the Amish are already living a low-impact lifestyle. They heat their greenhouses with the same practicality they apply to everything else in life. It's simple, sustainable, and effective. Heating a greenhouse without electricity may sound like a survivalist's approach, but the Amish have shown it's very doable. Their secret isn't in fighting nature, but in working alongside it. With a few techniques, like using sunlight effectively, stacking thermal mass, or composting to create natural heat, you can keep your greenhouse warm and productive even in winter. So, the next time you're bracing for winter, take a lesson from the Amish Greenhouse Handbook. With a few smart techniques, you can keep your plants cozy, your greenhouse thriving, and your heating bills non-existent. After all, no electricity means no electric bills. What could be better?